You guys should be able to see some throwing footage here. Okay, great, good. Anybody that's listening in and called in on the phone, I would encourage you to get off the phone right now and hop to the computer so you can see this and actually watch, because there's going to be interesting stuff that we go over on the seminar here. So I actually gave something similar to this before, and I'll ask real quick. Was anybody that's in here right now on the last little webinar I did? Great, awesome. So a lot of the information is going to be similar. Um, Rice, let me know. Let me know if I missed something or if you want me to hit on something else too. This is all beneficial for you guys. I just enjoy doing these, and I figured I had some time. So I'm assuming everybody's familiar with the formula. I'm going to skip over the research on the 90 mile an hour formula stuff. What I want to talk about to start is mechanical efficiency. So when we look at a guy, there's a lot of, I look at it from a very biomechanic standpoint. Uh, there we go. So I look at it from a very biomechanic standpoint, just looking at what is most optimal for each and every athlete. Um, if we look at, I don't worry about the overall, let's call it finite ability to pitch. That is not my skill set. My skill set and our skill set with our team is to just get athletes moving better. So if you look at, I'm going to scroll through right to Verlander. So Justin Verlander, I believe, does, and if you guys have followed any of my content, you know that I'm a big believer that Justin Verlander is probably one of the best all around all around pitchers there is right now, in my opinion, just based on his biomechanics. So everybody should be able to see this video here. This is a very famous video that I post up quite a bit. And the checkpoints I look at most importantly for our athletes is, where are they when their front foot touches down? So front foot touch down, he's at about 90 degrees with his arm. His hand is above his elbow there, which is, again, I'm not looking for perfection. I'm just looking for really good movement. Can you guys see that okay? Okay, great. I just want to make sure. I'm getting a lot of people messaging in here. So when he gets to his foot landing, his hand is above 90. It's above his elbow. His front shoulder's down and locked in. Hips are already rotating to the plate. Shoulders are still either neutral or starting to come forward home. I don't really care about too much. I just want to see how they're moving when we first look at an athlete. Then I like to see, where are they at max external rotation. So max external rotation, back leg still extended, almost touching the ground. His foot still comes forward just a little bit there, but he's almost touching the ground. He's basically off the ground there. And then right at ball release is the last point that I'm looking at. So I'm going to try to see if I can get close back. So you guys will be familiar with the C, where I talk about the C, where he locks out his front leg. I think that's super efficient. Again, not every single person, since I've started talking about the C, not every person can get that. And I think it's taken out of context now that everybody should be doing this. I don't think that's the case. I just think this is incredibly optimal, because the goal of pitching or throwing is going to be taking all that force from that back foot, applying it into the ground, and then at the last second, locking that front leg so that you can actually get all that force out of your hand. If we look at Chapman, he does the exact same thing, where he comes through, he loads. Let's look at where he is at front foot plant. Hits the ground right about there. Again, hands above 90. Arms starting to get tucked on underneath. There's a lot of debates either way if you should be tucked or not. I think that's a personal preference, but it could be, you could make an argument for either way. I like to see it a little bit more tucked than this, but you can only everybody's going to have their own style with it too. So I think some coaches really try to preach one way or another, where I'm more concerned about, can you get in the right positions at the right time. The thing that Chapman does that's pretty crazy is, you can see he's almost completely squared up with his hips. His back knee his back leg is in internal rotation pretty hard there. You can barely see right on the edge here that his hip is starting to come forward, and that his hand is still back, and his shoulders are still like closed off. So he stays closed a really long time, and at the last second, he keeps that leg stiff where it is. The knee doesn't come forward, but he doesn't lock out and have that C or that full extension that I talk about a lot. So, but on follow through, you can see that he's getting close, and then he starts to come forward. Again, not good or bad. Same thing with Hicks. I think his mechanics are a little less than orthodox, but he gets to just about the same position. So his hand's a little bit lower than elbow here at foot contact. His elbow is, his front side is a little bit tucked. His hips get really squared up. He gets a lot of internal rotation, and he's really closed. If you look at this, you can see this front shoulder is more so facing the third base dugout than it is towards home. So he's super closed up top, and he's really open at the bottom, which means he creates a massive whip, which is also why he can throw the crap out of the ball. So max external rotation, real back leg extended. As he starts to come forward, that leg kind of just hangs there and just falls off to the side. And let's see what we got for front leg lock. So at ball release, he's almost got the C. I know other videos I've posted, he does have the C. So it's just interesting. There's a lot of I think there's a lot of coaches that believe one way is the way to do it. I am not in that that camp. So I'm going to pause for a second, and I'm going to give you guys an opportunity to ask some questions here. If you have any questions on the stuff we just went over, feel free to type it into the comments right now, and I'll be happy to take it. All right, no questions. Let's keep rolling. So all right. So good question here. We got a question of, does the back leg needs to drive into the ground? I believe so, because we're trying to create separation. We're trying to create let's pull up, we're trying to create every single little thing from the backside in full hip extension. This is what I like about him. He stays long with his backside. His glutes are engaged for a long time, and his knee doesn't really break forward. You're going to see videos a lot of times of people where they collapse forward, and I think it's a risk on not just the elbow, but just to lose velocity, because it's just not mechanically efficient. Where he's super mechanically efficient from this backside, I think he's got a couple other little things that could be worked on, but again, it's not. It's very difficult. The overriding theme that I want you guys to understand is that everybody's a little different. And when we do any kind of screening of our athletes and we're looking at them from a biomechanics standpoint, we want to see how they move in the gym as well. So like we'll do their movement and orthopedic screen to figure out, are they able to move this way? He might not be able to move a certain way through his left hip, and maybe that's why he internally rotates so hard on his right hip. It's impossible to tell without actually screening him. So that's why it's always fun to see people comment about, oh, this guy's doing this wrong or that wrong. Well, like maybe he doesn't have that motion. And then the next one is a video of Nolan Ryan. So he gets super deep into his load, which I really like to see. When his front foot hits the ground, he's super long. Look at that back leg extension. Same thing, shoulders are pretty closed off. Back hip starts to get home, so he's starting to clear his hips a little bit. And then as he comes to follow through, he doesn't really get the C per se, but he does get that last second jolt of front leg extension. And that back leg trails nicely on his body. It breaks forward a little bit, but it's not breaking forward hard until just after ball release. Now, I go into some other sports here. When we look at a punch is going to be the same thing, where it's tight on, so we're getting a left-handed cross here, and he's going to pull that right side back. So left goes forward, right back, and it's really good transfer. And look at the back leg. Back leg gets really good hip extension, and he's able to apply all that force on the backside and get it out the hand, which is nice. My man Tom Brady, same thing. Good backside post, gets into it. Good frontside post, and then right before ball release, he tucks that front arm, gets real good external rotation, and then at ball release, completely elongated in that front leg. Back leg is still trailing. Front arm is starting to get tucked underneath. Again, you're going to see commonalities across all good rotational upper body athletes, in my opinion. So my big thing is that like anytime you throw a ball, you should be able to, if you want to, replicate your motion. This is a great overlay of Verlander and 4 of his pitches, where you can't really see the ball coming out any differently from any position. That tunneling is insane. The fact that it's like they're all on top of each other, and the fact that it comes out and now the batter actually has to make a decision on where that ball is going to be, and it's all coming from the exact same zone. So part of that is having enough lower body strength to replicate that motion. We get a lot of guys that come in that are very weak. They can't do like a bodyweight lunge without falling over. Well, no wonder why you can't tunnel a ball and you can't throw strikes consistently. You don't have control of that lower body. So regardless of if we gave him a 5-ounce ball, 7-ounce ball, 9-ounce ball, in my opinion, we should be able to replicate this over and over and over again, because this is just throwing mechanics. If we're going to go to the gym and we're going to deadlift 500 pounds today, your warming up form of 225, 315, 400, 450, 500, when you hit that 1 rep max, should look darn close to the same as one another. Where we see, and what you'll see in a moment, I have a good example here of how adding weight to a ball changes, a lot of people's movement mechanics or throwing mechanics, which to me says they don't have ingrained movement mechanics or arm action or throwing mechanics, which means that there's something's up with their mechanics or their strength or their stability, and they're not able to own that motion, and that's something we try to work on. I don't think everybody needs to be exactly the same with every single throw, but they should be really close. You're not going to be able to tunnel like this unless you have really good control and command of the rest of your body. Any questions as we get rolling here? Tanner, what's going on, buddy? Thanks for joining. Let me see. I'm going to try to go back and read some of these questions here. So one was, how long should you try to stay closed for? Again, you want to stay closed with your hips pretty much as long as, your shoulders as long as possible. Hips you want to try to clear. It depends. I mean, we're looking at every single person very differently. Some people have insane hip mobility just based on the fact, like the Chapman video I just showed you. There's a lot of hip mobility. He's got crazy hip internal rotation. That amount of hip internal rotation is probably something we could never teach an athlete. He probably has an abnormal hip socket that allows him to get there, or it's posteriorly centered, so it actually shows like he actually has more hip internal rotation. Foot drag, I know Tom House talks about that. I think there is something to that. I'm not convinced that's what you have to do, but I do understand why he says that. Stride length. Stride length is very person specific. I think what people forget is that some people will overstride and they have no strength in that long range. Some people will shorten up their stride and they are leaving untapped ability to create separation in their lower body. It's very person dependent. That's why we screen for this stuff. Let's see what else we got. So, good question. What would help with correcting arm path throwing plyo balls? Potentially, yes, and I'll show you why in a little bit. Let's go back to some more videos here, and I'll take more questions as we get going a little bit further. So, let me see if I can find. Let me ask you guys right now, on an inverted W. So an inverted W is right here. When your front foot contact, back arm is down. Do you guys think that's good, bad, and why do you think it is good or bad? Nick, why is it bad? Good, okay. Why is it good? Jack Cecil, my buddy in here. Jack, if you're still in here, I'd love to hear your comments on this. And Jack, would you mind throwing in what your position is in baseball? So a lot of people say, so Corey Red's bad because your arm doesn't have time to get up back to like 90 degrees. A lot of people say that. They say it's a mechanical issue. Okay, so Jack says it's going to force the arm to take a longer path in a shorter period of time. I don't disagree with that. I think that's actually, Jack, I've never heard it stated that way, but I think there's valid point to that. Corey, I don't think that it's really like a mechanical thing, and I'm going to show you guys why. So this is the same guy right here. We did a quick screen on him. He sent me this video of him throwing a baseball. And then a couple weeks later, this is him throwing a baseball with a counterbalance. If all we did, and I'll also say that when we retested him before we did this drill with the counterbalance, so he's got a 2-pound ball in his front hand, he's got a 5-ounce ball in the back hand. When we did this drill, this was the same position he had over here when we did it with just a 5-ounce ball. So if all we did was add a 2-pound counterbalance here, and his arm goes from below his chest to basically in line with his head or his ear, what's the difference in those two things? What's the issue there? Throw some comments in. So Jack writes, he lacks body control to handle a 2-pound weight. I would say the opposite. I think he actually he has an instability, and the way we look at it is that he has an instability that a trunk stability issue, because all we did was gave him extra weight in the front, so he had to brace a little bit harder, and it automatically cleans up his arm action. So we give him something in front. He has to stabilize harder in that front arm, which means he's going to have to stabilize harder in that front side or his front side obliques, which means it's going to naturally bring that other arm up. If you think about walking or running is every time you take a step with your left leg forward, your right arm is going to come forward. So you have constantly, with how you move, you're constantly in symmetry or balance for the most part when you're moving in natural progression. So when you're going left leg forward, right arm is coming forward. When you're going right leg forward, left arm is coming forward. You should be, in my opinion, you should be balanced from the front side to the back side or one side to the other side, regardless if you're throwing or walking or running, anything like that. So this is going to help replicate that position. I actually think that most of these issues are inverted W issues are stability issues hidden as mechanical issues. Because if this was a mechanical issue, we wouldn't be able to clean it up in one rep. Literally just rolling him out a 2-pound counterbalance for him to throw. Does that make sense to you guys? Donovan asks, whoops, sorry, it's scrolling fast on me. Is he getting more rotational in the top half when he's holding a 2-pound ball? Great question. It's tough to see with this one. I believe his shoulder actually, I think he opens up a little bit quicker with his front side shoulder with the counterbalance. And that is why I think that when guys use weighted balls, they should be very cautious, not in a bad way, but they should be cognizant or cautious on what they're actually doing and what that does to their mechanics. Because if this is you, if this is your arm mechanics and you've been successful here for your whole entire career, you've never had elbow pain, you throw hard, you do all the things you want to do, and you're working your way through the minors, and some guy like me comes in and goes, oh, well, that's inefficient, don't do that. I don't think that's any reason to change your mechanics. I'm just one person's opinion. You got to figure out what's going to work best for you. Your mechanics are very individual to you. How you move, your actual orthopedic structure, your goal on the field. Maybe this guy, and this is another question that we get a lot. Maybe this guy is a side armor. I mean, obviously he's not here, but because he's up so high. But maybe he makes his living going east to west or west to east with his throwing. If we get him up higher and start using weighted balls with him, maybe he's going to be less successful because even though he might go up a couple miles per hour, maybe he doesn't have the movement on his ball anymore. There's a lot of things that go into this, and I don't think it's a fix-all for everybody, but this is one way we look at it. So the other way is right here. So I'm going to show you this guy. So foot down. He's almost at that inverted W position. There's a couple of frames where he will get an inverted W. Again, not good, bad, but I'm going to run through this screen right here. And I want you guys to look and tell me, so tell me which mechanics you would most want for this guy. 1, 2, 3, or 4. 4, okay. 2. A lot of 2s. Yes, I'm sorry, Jack. I should have said that before. All on front foot contact. This is every single person, every single view on this one is front foot contact. Great. So we got a mix across the board here. And obviously we're drawing some assumptions here based on that he actually has mechanics that he wants to change or whatnot. Let's see what we got here. So this is where it really gets interesting. We gave him a 5-pound ball here, 5-pound ball, 2 ounces. 5-ounce ball, 5-ounce ball, 2-pound counterbalance here, and look what happens. Same exact ball he's throwing. We give him a counterbalance, and look at his arm mechanics change. His arm goes up higher, right? And all we did was add a front load. 9-ounce ball, no counterbalance. Hand automatically goes higher. 9-ounce ball, 2-pound counterbalance. Hand automatically gets higher. Again, this is where you got to be your own best advocate, and you got to work with good pitching coaches. You got to work with your, your parents, and you got to figure out and look at videos yourself and figure out exactly what you want. You could make arguments probably for every single one of these mechanics in terms of like what's most optimal. What I see as interesting also is that his internal rotation on this one, his back knee comes in a little bit more, and his hips start to square up. His shoulders look nice and even, really like squared up to the plate. His hands above his shoulder, his hands above his elbow. He's got a little bit more. It looks like a longer stride here than the other ones. It could be an optical illusion based on positioning, but again, just a thought. Now, here's another way we can look at this. This is, I believe, 3 frames after ball release. They're all the same in terms of when we captured this. Look at the difference in leg and foot position in the front leg. So if we look at where it chops off the body, his arm is a lot more extended, a lot more pronated here with the counterbalance right? His arm is reaching out in front of him, which creates that kind of harder whip effect than it does on these top ones. And it also goes through, and you can see he's actually got more trunk flexion on this throw right here than he does on this one. So you can see that if we cut through, it's going to cut through like almost like just above, like right in the middle part of his back, where this one cuts through almost his upper back. He's got more flexion here, and it looks like he actually gets out there more in front a little bit more. We could also look at his follow through. His back leg is more extended here than it is here. So again, I don't know what we're trying to accomplish with this guy. We could make arguments for all of these, but again, things change, and in my opinion, they shouldn't. You guys still follow there? Any questions while we can break for a second? So how many throws would we have him do with the counterbalance? That is a very person-specific thing. It's like asking, how many swings is going to take to make your mechanics look good off the tee or off of flips or off of live hitting. I don't know. It depends on what you're trying to accomplish and how much the overhaul is and what the process is that you're using to get there. So some guys will literally hand a counterbalance to and will say, hey, listen, for the next week or so, when you go to throw, I would encourage you to use your counterbalance while you're playing catch, while you're long tossing, while you're doing these things, and then recheck. And then we won't ever use a counterbalance again. The counterbalance literally just adds a stability component in front. So it's just another way to give the body input to help you really force that trunk to stabilize a little bit more. So if we look at, let's see. So this is one of my favorite examples here. We got Cam. Top guy here is Cam. Cam is actually just signed with Texas A&M. Big, strong Nebraska kid. He's like 6'5". I want to say like 210, 215. We took this when he was in high school. So this is our first time working together. These top videos. He notoriously some struggles with his command, his velocity. When we took this, the week before we took this, he was 92 or 93. I believe it was 93 on the mound. And the week after we took this, he went and did another showcase and was up to 95 as an 18-year-old. So big, strong kid. But look what happens when we give him a 5-ounce ball compared to a 14-ounce ball, compared to a 14-ounce ball, and a 2-pound counterbalance. Things change rapidly with him. Just because he's big and strong in certain exercises in the gym, does not mean that. Sorry, we're jumping around here. Certain exercises in the gym does not mean that we are optimal on the field. That's why we focus on the lunge so much. That's why we focus on chin-ups and push-ups and our deadlifts, just to really, and then rotational exercises to make sure it's going to carry over to the field. Because, I mean, he can deadlift a house. He's strong as hell. But is it carrying over the way we want it to? Now, Jesse is a left-hander. I flipped him for the screen just so you guys could see it. Jesse's a left-hander, was a D3 pitcher, low 90s, 92, 93 tops. I would consider him to have an elite arm, not because he throws incredibly hard, but because his mechanics are highly reputable. So he can repeat them as much as he wants. Look at what happens when we give him a 5-ounce ball, 7-ounce ball, 7-ounce ball, a 2-pound counterbalance. Nothing changes. We did this with a whole series of balls, and nothing changed at all. So he's got really good, if you just think of the mechanics as like brain software, he's got really good software that says, hey, this is where you need to be at this time. And very few things change with his mechanics as he goes into this throwing, whereas Cam breaks down all over the place. So this is at front foot contact, then max external rotation. Look at where Cam is in max external rotation with these throws. First one's very different than the last two, and in my argument, these two is what we would want to see him on the field like. So unfortunately, his mechanics at this time was not perfect for, what I think is going to give him the most velocity on the field. Whereas, look at Jesse. I mean, it's exact same. The only difference between any of these things in this picture is the sweatshirt that he's wearing. And then 2 frames after ball release. So very different pictures for Cam. Basically the exact same pictures for Jesse. Any questions with that? Tanner, exactly. He's missing a whole bunch of functional strength, and the way we're going to fix that is we're going to make sure that we do a good movement screen, we do a good orthopedic screen, making sure that we check off some mechanic stuff, talk to his pitching coach, say, hey, listen, like, what are you guys working on, and where do you see the breakdown, and now let's try to work together. A counterbalance, something like this, if we go back and look, we could argue a lot of different things, but I'll say that if we're just looking, we're gonna know basically. I think we should all be able to agree that his 14-ounce throw or 14-ounce with a counterbalance is much better in all 3 positions than it is with the 5-ounce ball. So I would encourage him just to start playing catch with the 14-ounce ball. Now that's knowing how strong he is. That's knowing what his arm mechanics look like when he goes to throw a ball. That's knowing like a lot of different factors with him. That he's got enough muscle mass. He's strength trained enough that he actually can withstand a lot of the durability issues that some people have with throwing a lot or throwing a weighted ball. A lot of people claim that weighted balls hurt them, but are you looking at your mechanics? Are you looking at what happens, the changes that happen at the rest of your body, not just your arm, but your lower half when you add a ball? If we just look at basic mechanics, he looks a lot more biomechanically efficient with the 14-ounce ball than he does the 5-ounce ball. So we could make some arguments that maybe the 14-ounce ball is safer for him. So just using that and getting enough repetition is going to help him. Rodney, great question. Did counterbalance affect his arm speed? I do not know, but we're going to go and we're going to dig into some other ones where we know it does. And you guys are going to see some stuff that's very interesting, to say the least. So Cody says, I throw sidearm. I can't really throw sidearm with plyos. Cody, sidearm is a very unique challenge that I'm still trying to wrap my head around in terms of how we can use weighted balls or if weighted balls are applicable for them. To be very honest, I'm not sure. Any sidearm guy we ever get, we look in with the athlete and see what happens when they do throw the balls from the side. The driveline balls, the leather driveline balls that are like, I think 6, 7, 8, 9 ounces, something like that. I forget the exact numbers. We play with those quite a bit with our sidearm guys, but I'm not sure that we should be doing plyo balls. So it's up for debate. I don't have the answer for that one. Counterbalances intrigue me though. I always wonder what's going to happen to a sidearm guy when we add a counterbalance, because some guys go straight up and they go to like 90 degrees where they're like almost over top, and some guys just start to get even more rotational. So it's very unique, and it's something that you need to be cautious with and just play with to see what's going to help you the best. So let's see what we got here. All right, so Rodney, yes, it was Rodney that asked me what was his how did his velocity change. So this is a normal table on what we can look at our velocity gains. You guys have probably seen this before on my page. Forget about long toss on here, and for the moment, forget about mound velocity. We see for every ounce of ball we add, we see a 3-mile-an-hour drop is our average. The mound with a 5-ounce ball is usually 3 ounces less than what we do on flat ground. These are all run and guns. Before we go any further, any questions with that? Does that chart make sense? Because the rest of this webinar is going to be confusing if you don't understand that chart in full. All right, great. So I'm going to continue on here. And let me know, can you guys see the videos that I have up right now? Great. Perfect. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, guys. Perfect. So we're going to run through. So this is Anthony. Anthony is we work with a program in California, and Anthony has been topping out at about 84, 85 on the mound, 84 on run and gun, and we have all sorts of interesting stuff here with him. So I'll go through kind of slow on this one. We're not going to run through every video, but I want you guys to see what I'm looking at. So this is just a 5-ounce ball, run and gun. And one thing I want you guys to think about when I'm looking at someone mechanically, I'm looking at two things. I want to see what's happening at their mechanics and what's happening with their velocity. Those are the big two factors that we're manipulating. So if you're giving someone a 5-ounce ball or a 5-ounce ball with a 2-pound counterbalance, I want to know velocity. It's important for us to get that information, because then we're able to have better checks and balances on what we're looking at. So I'll go real slow here. Run and gun. Oh, by the way, I'll preface this. Anthony throws 300 feet in his long toss. I think 315 in his long toss. He also hits all the parameters from the 90-mile-an-hour formula. So we know, based on the long toss being over 300 feet, he's got 90 in the tank. We know, based on the 90-mile-an-hour formula metrics, that not only is he going to reduce incidence of injury, according to the research that we have, but also that he's got enough strength in the tank to really own the movements that we're trying to get in. So we know Anthony's got the skill set and he's got enough horsepower in the engine. We just need to figure out why he's not throwing 90 on the mound. So let's little run and gun here. Front foot down. Hand is up about 90 degrees. Let's look at his 5-ounce ball with a counterbalance here. Sorry if you guys hear my dog barking. There must be a squirrel or something running around out back. So let's see where he is at front foot contact. So definitely up. You guys see that? Definitely up higher with his arm at front foot contact, compared with the counterbalance, compared to with the no counterbalance. You guys see that? Let me know comment in there. I just want to make sure you guys are seeing what I'm seeing. Great. Cool. So that's the first thing. I see that his arm's up higher, which means to me that, he needs more stability on that front side. So we're going to do more trunk stability stuff in the gym, continue to condition that, and we're going to condition that trunk stability while he's on the mound, while he's throwing, while he's doing these other things by adding different drills for him. Good long stride, but look at he's a little bit harder posted up on the front side here than he is here, it looks like. So let's see where he is at max external rotation. So that's probably max external rotation. Now's where it gets interesting. Look at the stride length. Look at the back knee. So with the counterbalance over here, back knee compared to the front knee is further than it is over here, back knee to front knee. You can see if you take this back hip and draw a line from his back hip all the way down to his knee, he's almost got a little bit of hip extension. I'd like to see him out a little bit further where it's almost like this angle, but he's a little bit behind his hip. He's not straight up and down. He's a little bit behind, so good. Here, he's straight up and down. So he's breaking down on this back trail leg. He's not getting everything out of it, in my opinion. You guys still follow? Great. Cool. So now follow through. Let's see where he is at ball release. It's tough to see. I'll go as close as I can. Ball release. Here we go. So you can even see it even more exaggerated. Look at that knee coming forward. I think I think that this is a huge mechanical flaw for a lot of guys, not just Anthony. It's not the worst thing in the world, but we have seen elbow issues come from it. I believe come from it, at least linked to it. And there's definitely some trunk stability issues. Why can't you separate your hips? Why can't you get that backside to own that back part of the ground and then the front side to do the work? Look at the difference. I mean, is he perfect here? No. He's absolutely not perfect here, but he's more vertical here, and he's got more torso flexion than he does here, where his like knee is almost touching his other knee. Now, the interesting thing is 84 miles an hour, 85 miles an hour. So, automatically goes up in velocity just a little bit. If we did a bunch more throws, I'm sure that this would shake out and be a little bit more efficient for him. So, first piece is down there. Now, we'll go into, I believe, his, find his next set of throws here. 80 miles an hour for his 70. Here we go. All right, 7-ounce ball. Let's look at it again. Remember, there's two ways I want to manipulate these equations. Are we making him more efficient, or are we having him throw harder? Are his mechanics improving, or is he just throwing harder? Either one, in short term, I think is acceptable. So, 7-ounce ball. Let's just make sure we got these ones right. All right, great. So, 7-ounce ball, no counterbalance. Let's see what we got. Front foot down. Look at arms up higher than it was. Let's get back to this guy. This is the 5-ounce ball, no counterbalance. Hands up higher here than it is here. Is that good or bad? We could argue. But let's look at some other factors as we go through this. So, this is the 7-ounce ball, 2-pound counterbalance. Foot contact. Now he's right in line, 90 degrees with his elbow. His stride looks a little bit longer here, in my opinion. We could argue that, but it just from my vantage point, it looks like he's a little bit longer there. And let's see where he is on this one with the 5-ounce ball and the 2-pound counterbalance. So that's where he touches down. He's definitely up higher here. Shoulders tucked in real tight with that counterbalance here. And this is the interesting one. This is the 7-ounce ball, 80 miles an hour. 7-ounce ball with a 2-pound counterbalance, 90. So, massive discrepancies. Donovan had a really good question there on what the velocity was like and what the difference was with the other guy. I think you got to be able to look and see what is the goal and where are we headed with it. So let's chart this out. So I charted this out beforehand. These are the rest of his throws, okay? So no counterbalance. He's 84, 80, 76, 70, okay? He's 85 with the counterbalance, 5-ounce ball, 7-ounce ball, 90, 78, 71. So using this information that I just showed you guys, what do you think his real run and gun should be based on all the factors that we have? Throw it in the comments real quick. What do you think his run and gun should be with a 5-ounce ball? We got 85, we got 96, we got 89, 93, 93, 95, 96, 88, 92. All right. So, I have him at 96 is where he should be. So, when we go back and look at our chart, we know that for every ounce, there we go, with every ounce of ball that we add, so a 5-ounce ball to a 6-ounce ball, there's a 3-mile-an-hour difference. Again, these are averages. This is what we see regularly. But if we look at a force velocity curve, which is just a scientific curve that shows, it's basically what velocity-based training is all about. A lot of people are talking about that now. It's just the amount of force you're able to put on something should move it at a certain speed. And if you can throw a 7-ounce ball at 90 miles an hour, that is 2 ounces heavier than a baseball, which is so that those two standard deviations, those two deviation points, you should add 3 miles an hour for each, so that's 96. So we know that he's got some trunk stability on the back end with his arm mechanics, likely just because he gets into better positions with a 7-ounce ball. And on the front end, he's got some front end stability that he needs to work on in terms of actually being able to stabilize because he does it better with his counterbalance. So this is the changes that we see. So there's a lot of ways that we can look at this. We could say, let's find the least efficient patterns. So that would be his 9-ounce throw with a counterbalance. Or we could say, let's find his most efficient. For me, what I want to do right now with him, and what we have been working on, is we've given him a 7-ounce ball with his long toss, practice, and stuff like that, and a counterbalance, and we've encouraged him to just go through his normal routines, as long as he feels good, go through his normal routines with a 7-ounce ball, because what we want to ingrain, everything we want to ingrain with him, is we're trying to find those optimal patterns to tell his brain that this is where we want you to be all the time. Now, is this perfect? No. But is this going to give him a huge jump? And as a senior in high school, if he can touch, let's say, 90, 93 consistently, he's going to do really, really well for his senior year. And he was already, I believe, he may have been MVP of his league last year. I could be incorrect with that, but I'm pretty sure he was. At least he was all conference. So he's going to have a really good chance to be super competitive in that league. And we know that this pattern with the 2-pound counterbalance and the 7-ounce ball is the one that puts him in the right positions to throw the hardest. And it's going to, just practicing it, it's going to give his brain that stimulus. Now, we're going to have to eventually work him back down to a 5-ounce ball because it doesn't matter what he can do with a 7-ounce ball because he doesn't play with a 7-ounce ball. Does that make sense to you guys? Awesome. Is there any questions with that before we go on to the next one? Matt, are you in on this chat right now? Because I'm going to go over your mechanics real quick for what I do have from you. So this is, this brings up a lot of good debates in terms of the weighted ball stuff, because obviously I'm pro weighted ball when used appropriately. It's mostly, in my opinion, about getting the right mechanics. The right mechanics are going to put you in a really good position. And weighted balls don't scare me. Throwing weighted balls when you're not prepared to does. So if we just look at, let's see where he is, ground contact. So this is a 7-ounce ball, 2-pound counterbalance where he's most efficient. And this is a 5-ounce ball. Those are different mechanics. His hands are up higher, shoulders a little bit more open on his front side. His back knee and back hip seem to be more squared up to the fence compared to this one. Stride may be a little bit shorter on this one. I can't really tell here, but he definitely is longer and more locked in with his front leg on this one right when he lands. Again, not saying that's good or bad. But at the same time, it's something that we're noticing is different between the two. Let's see where he is at max external rotation. Max external rotation. Going right back to that position. He's a little bit more straight in that back leg, straight up and down at max external rotation than he is here. Darn close to the exact same position. But look at his front leg. Look at how much more posted up he is there. He's closer to the C in full extension here than he is here. Let's look at where he is at ball release. It's tough. Can't see it. Skips a frame. But he definitely is breaking down less with the counterbalance in the 7-ounce ball than he is with the 5-ounce ball. So we want to remove these patterns, because every time you train a pattern and say, hey brain, this is what we're going to do, um, what's the response you're going to give us? The brain's going to say, hey, this is acceptable. We don't want to allow this to be acceptable anymore because we know that it's suboptimal. We want to try to entice the body to get in this position as much as we can. All right, so we're going to break down some other ones. Where is Matt? So Matt just sent me these. Matt, I'm going to give you the best I can because I don't have all the videos I need, but we're going to be able to. I have not seen all of them yet either, so we're gonna screen these together. If you guys have questions or comments as we get going on more of this, please chime in, because the rest of this little webinar thing is for you guys in terms of what we have, anything planned. I don't have anything else planned for you, but I think it will be interesting to see what we have here. So I'm going to get rid of the 14 for a second. Let's go 7 ounce. So Matt did not do the counterbalances, but we're going to be able to see some good stuff here. Actually, you know what? Let's look at Matt on the mound first and just see what happens on the mound, because the mound is a whole different animal. And that's why I'm not even covering the mound stuff, because it's side view. It's going to be tough. I'm not going to cover that. I thought he had he had a back view, not a side view. The mound offers all sorts of other stability components that we need to allow the body to really move efficiently. So a lot of guys will break down on the mound very quickly compared to flat ground. So that's why we screen both. So this is a 5 ounce ball. Let's look at where he is. Yeah, let's go side. Side view is going to be better. All right. 5 ounce ball. Toe down. Inverted W. Hands underneath his elbow. Let's see what we got. 7 ounce ball. Toe down. Hands beneath the elbow. Let's look at 14 ounce. Oh, come on. Toe down. Looks like he's even more inverted than the other one. So what I would be interested to see with Matt, even though we don't have the video, is adding a counterbalance. I would bet just about anything. Give him a couple of throws with a 2 or 4 pound counterbalance. I bet almost anything that we're going to find some trunk stability issues, and his hand's going to go up above his shoulder. Now, Matt's a professional baseball player. This is his career. Matt should not blindly say, oh, Josh says I need to throw the counterbalance. This is to get my hand above 90 degrees. I just think that if we're going to be able to look at an athlete and give him a counterbalance, if Matt's position is this bottom position the whole time, then so be it. Then that's what it is. But I'm very confident right now, at least, with our athletes, that if you are in an inverted W position, it is a strength and stability issue that needs to be worked out both on the field and in the gym, to carry over into the right mechanics that are going to lead you to be most effective while you're on the mound. So for Matt, I'd be really interested to see with what happens when you add that counterbalance. Now, the other interesting thing is he doesn't change. His mechanics are very similar. I mean, this hand looks a little bit lower, but it could just be the camera. These are all the exact same positions here. So again, you're gonna, working with a 13-year-old who's got these mechanics, and you say, hey, I want him hands above his elbow and his front foot's down. Fine, that's great, awesome, something to work on. But with a professional athlete that is going to make his career by throwing, you got to be careful on what we're tinkering with and like how we're going to modify it. So, Matt, what are you seeing? What are your thoughts on all this? So while Matt's going to respond in a second, but Jim asks, how would you recommend we work with our younger players, 10 to 13 years old, to help with safe, effective mechanics? Jim, it's a great question. It's something that I think about a lot, and I've talked to a lot of coaches. I have not coached Little League in a long time. I haven't coached since I was probably 19. Um, but in terms of Little League, but something I think that could be a good influence on these guys is um, allowing them to use a counterbalance. So even with them, even if it's like a 12-ounce ball, 14-ounce ball, a 2-pound ball in their front glove, 2 pounds probably gonna be a little heavy for the 10-year-olds, but just have them hold that ball in their glove when they go to throw, and a lot of times that will clean up their arm mechanics really quickly. Now, is it a cure-all? No. It's something that just needs to get practiced in and teased in, and then you work on your mechanical drills. Um, uh, Austin Wasserman has some great drills. If you guys don't follow him, he's got some great drills, like the water bottle drill to teach arm path. I really like those things. I think it helps a lot, but at the same time, I think these things automatically fix it. We have a couple of years ago, I had two professional pitchers walk in and within 20 minutes each other the first day of their off season, and both of them told me this exact same story, and it was very strange to me, and it's something that I've always believed that they had they both had guys during their seasons with horrible arm pain um, during the season, pitchers, and both of them went and grabbed an outfielder's mitt from their friend after they were done being on the disabled list, and they were returned to throwing. They had pain throwing. They had pain throwing with a regular baseball and their glove, but they did not have pain with an outfielder's mitt. So what happened to these guys is what happens to these guys, in my opinion, not having knowing the rest of the story, except that they had no pain when they were throwing with the outfielder's mitts. The outfielder's mitt was heavier, and it actually forced them to brace harder with their front side, and allows their arm mechanics to be a little bit more optimal. So my thinking is, with these guys, even though we haven't worked with them, I'd bet just about anything that they had trunk stability issues that were shaking out as shoulder issues. They really probably didn't have shoulder issues, which means they were probably on the disabled list for no good apparent reason besides the fact they had a trunk stability issue, which probably could have fixed by either putting some weights in their glove or using a different glove. Exactly. Um, so Tanner says, I just convinced a lot of guys to buy a heavier glove. I actually have a friend that is trying to patent putting weights in gloves so they can accomplish this quicker. So if you know that you need an extra 6 or 10 ounces in your glove, maybe there's a possible way to just slip it in there and not let anybody else know that you need that. So then coaches don't have to know, umpires don't have to know. It's very interesting. I have other people that say they're just going to dunk their glove in water. So Matt writes about his mechanics here. It's interesting to me that throwing plyo balls, I am an inverted W guy. On the mound, I've never seen that be an issue. What trunk stability drills would you think is beneficial for me? First thing I'd want to do is screen you um, in terms of your full movement orthopedic screen, because that will usually shake out where you're weak in terms of whether it's a lunge variation, a bear crawl variation, chin up, even like a bird dog row. A lot of those things will naturally shake themselves out. The other thing that I would want to do is I'd encourage you to toy with this yourself because you know what you're looking for now after doing this webinar. Um, use this as an opportunity to just throw a counterbalance in and see what happens. Because a lot of times your arm will come up and be in just a little bit higher arm slot, which may be more efficient for you. We haven't even gone through, and this is the thing, and I don't want people to, Matt, I don't want you to feel this way, and I don't want anybody else to feel this way. We haven't even dug into like where you are in ball release. We haven't looked at a lot of these other factors. So it's just it's literally just the first glance that we're looking at this to figure out what's going to be the most efficient. And it's a guess and check game for a lot of these things. You got to figure out what is going to be the fix that's going to work for you. I know plenty of people that are like, hey, I'm not going to throw a weighted ball. I'll use a counterbalance, even though a weighted ball probably is going to fix them. They're going to use a counterbalance, and they may or may not get the results they're looking for. It's about what happens when you're actually training. If I always tell our staff when we're coaching a squat, if I say, hey, listen, I want you to squat back and sit on that box, and you squat on your toes and your heels are off the ground, you're in just a terrible position. If I just keep yelling at you and say, hey, squat back, sit back, and you don't change your movement, then it's not a good cue. We're not fixing the problem. Yelling at you and telling you that you need to sit back more is not going to automatically have you sit back more. If we give you a counterbalance, or we give you like weight at your chest, or we give you a goblet position, or maybe we work into a front rack of like a front squat or something to have you sit back, and that fixes you, then I'm fine with it. It's all about what actually happens with the mechanics. So Justin asked, I used a heavy glove, but it made me fall off balance. Is that a trunk stability issue? Likely could be. And think about this, Justin. I don't know how old you are. I don't know how big or strong you are. But if a glove, the difference between a pound or two, in like a really heavy light glove compared to a heavy glove, and you're going to fall off balance, you probably have a lot of trunk stability issues, and you're probably lacking a lot of muscle mass, is my guess. Would I ever suggest anyone throw a pen with a counterbalance? Tanner, great question. Absolutely, we see it a lot. We have guys, we have pro guys right now that are exclusively throwing pens down at their prerequisite to spring training at their facilities, strictly with a counterbalance to help them ingrain that pattern. And then we'll start to pull away some of the weights on the counterbalance. So they may start with a 12-ounce ball and work themselves down to like a 3-ounce ball in the glove, and then eventually no ball. Guys, any other questions? Yep, Cody, just put the weighted ball in your glove and throw a baseball or the weighted ball that you're looking for. That's it. Let me see if I can fix the volume. Guys, can you still hear me? Okay. Perfect. So Cody asks, how do we know which ball to use? You gotta play with it. You gotta guess just as much as I do. Do I see a difference between toe versus heel strike? Not really. Everybody's very different. I'm indifferent to it. I'd be interested to see if that someone else has information to lead me one way or another, but I think it really just comes down to comfort of the athlete. Yes, Cody, then you see what differs. All right, guys, I'm going to cut this one now, but I appreciate you coming on, and I'm sure we'll do it again at some point. Hopefully everybody stays warm, and we will talk soon. You're very welcome, guys.
Goodbye.
Yo, what's up?
I appreciate you jumping in.
can do anything I want.
What the hell's SQL?
SQL is a programming language to...
Oh, I know.
Or SQL. You ever heard it?
Yeah, I've heard of it. I didn't realize that you... Why are you doing that?
Because it's way easier to cut things up with it.
I got you. Did any constructive criticism for that? Besides the fact that I didn't practice
really
it?
Good.